it's a very, very serious situation indeed. I think sometimes the Republicans forget that actually a lot of the money being spent is being spent in America, not on Ukraine, i.e. on manufacturing of weapons in swing states like Ohio, etc. So I think the White House is trying to make the argument that what's good for Ukraine is good for America, even on America first foreign policy terms, but an isolationist wing of the Republicans is gathering strength.
Sarah, you're here to talk about American politics. We're very grateful to you for your time. Tell us, first of all, about what looks to be a very serious situation potentially for the people of Ukraine. Is it waning interest in the White House in supporting Ukraine, or lack of support, financial or otherwise, for the idea of continuing it? What would you say?
I'd say the White House is fully committed to continuing support for Ukraine, but Congress is not. And the House of Representatives has a very slender Republican majority, which is determined to obstruct aid to Ukraine and has been successfully withholding it. And the White House is warning that things are approaching a crisis point now, where most of the money that's designated for Ukraine, for arms for Ukraine, has been spent, and that it needs urgent funding authorizations in order to fulfill its obligations to the Ukrainian people. So it's a very, very serious situation indeed. I think sometimes the Republicans forget that actually a lot of the money being spent is being spent in America, not on Ukraine, i.e. on manufacturing of weapons in swing states like Ohio, etc. So I think the White House is trying to make the argument that what's good for Ukraine is good for America, even on America first foreign policy terms. But an isolationist wing of the Republicans is gathering strength.
So there's quite a lot on the desk of anyone looking abroad from the United States at the moment, isn't there? And I wonder whether you can just update us on any kind of changing position that the US has with regard to its support for Israel. I mean, there has been so much conversation about what happens next as the ceasefire ends. And Antony Blinken, he's made 4 trips to Israel, hasn't he, since October the 7th?
Yes, he's been very, very active on the White House's behalf. Now, the trouble with what's going on is Israel is that Joe Biden was immediately very supportive in public, privately warning Israel not to get carried away because of the humanitarian catastrophe of bombing Gaza relentlessly. And Antony Blinken has again been issuing rather more public warnings this time because following the breakdown of the ceasefire, a new humanitarian catastrophe is unfolding, and he's been quite specific about how he wants Israel to behave. That, you know, it shouldn't just be telling people to evacuate without any safe routes to evacuate or places to go to, that it shouldn't just be bombing, it shouldn't be bombing places where they are congregating near hospitals and so forth. So I think America's messaging is getting tougher in public, that it wants Israel to show restraint. Of course, Israel is saying, well, they didn't break the ceasefire. So it's, blaming Hamas. But, we can't just have them going, we can't have this endless humanitarian catastrophe without the White House feeling very under pressure from its own side over this because of the amount of deaths in Gaza.
And how much pushback is there against that policy, if any, on Capitol Hill?
Well, the White House would have loved to tie aid to Israel, where there's considerable support on Capitol Hill, with aid to Ukraine, and that's explicitly what the Republicans don't want. So you've got this situation where the White House is under pressure from the Republican side over Ukraine and from the Democratic side over Israel. And it's caught in this big pincer movement on that basis. And so it's a fine line that Joe Biden and Antony Blinken are treading at the moment.